The ancient starship drifted silently through the void, its once gleaming hull now pitted and scarred by centuries of micrometeorite impacts. Inside the observation dome, Dr. Talek pressed his six-fingered hand against the transparent barrier, his amber eyes wide with wonder as Earth came into view. "Beautiful," he whispered, mandibles clicking softly. "To think this planet once housed the birthplace of so much technology we take for granted." Behind him, the research team moved with quiet efficiency, setting up equipment to study what most believed to be nothing more than an abandoned homeworld of a long-extinct species. The Galactic Concord's historical archives contained only fragments about humans, bizarre bipeds who had briefly participated in early galactic affairs before, mysteriously vanishing during the severance period some 2,000 years ago. "Professor," called out his assistant, "the atmospheric readings match our projections. The planet has mostly healed itself." Talek nodded, watching clouds swirl across blue oceans. "Prepare the landing craft. I want to see those ruins in the northern continent before sundown." Hours later, Talek stood amid crumbling concrete and twisted metal, the skeleton of what once was a mighty city. His environment suit sensors detected no dangerous radiation or toxins, just the clean smell of Earth and growing things reclaiming what humans had built. "These buildings," he said into his recorder, "suggest a civilization far more advanced than the historical record indicates. The composition of these alloys, impossible for a species at their documented development stage." His team uncovered more oddities as the day progressed. Technology fragments that defied conventional understanding. Defense systems that, despite millennia of neglect, still hummed with latent energy. And most puzzling of all, a complete absence of remains. No bones, no burial sites, nothing to suggest what had become of Earth's inhabitants. "It's as if they simply walked away," Talek mused, examining a partially intact terminal. "But where could an entire species go without leaving a trace in our histories?" As twilight approached, his team discovered a sealed chamber beneath the ruins. With careful precision, they cut through doors designed to withstand weapons that could level mountains. Inside, perfectly preserved, sat a room filled with technology centuries beyond anything the Concorde currently possessed. At its center stood an inactive console bearing a simple symbol, a circle with lines radiating outward like a stylized sun. "Document everything," Talek ordered. "This could rewrite our understanding of pre-conquered history." Across the galaxy, on a world called Haven, Day wiped sweat from his brow as he guided his harvester across golden fields. Like everyone on this outer rim farming colony, he had the same general appearance, tall, with copper skin and dark hair. Haven's people were classified as rimfolk by the Conquered, a common humanoid variation found on dozens of frontier worlds. But Day had always felt different. His dreams were filled with strange visions, massive cities, incomprehensible technologies, and a profound sense of loss. The colony doctors called it frontier syndrome, common among those born far from the galactic center. As his harvester crested a hill, Day noticed something strange, a metallic glint from the old ridge where nobody ever went. Local children whispered the ridge was haunted. Adults simply said it was unstable and dangerous. Day shouldn't have gone there. But as the suns began to set, he found himself climbing the rocky slope, drawn by curiosity he couldn't explain. The metal he'd spotted was the corner of a door, revealed by recent rains that had washed away centuries of soil. Day ran his fingers along its edge, surprised when lines of light suddenly pulsed beneath his touch. With a soft hiss, the door slid open. Cool air rushed out from the darkness. Day hesitated only briefly before stepping inside, guided by light. Panels that activated as he moved deeper into what appeared to be an underground facility of impossible construction. "Hello?" he called, his voice echoing down pristine corridors that looked as if they had been built yesterday, not buried for centuries. He came to a circular chamber where glass pods lined the walls. Stepping closer, Day gasped. Inside each pod was a person, sleeping, their faces peaceful. They looked like Haven's people, yet somehow different. more varied. Some pods were dark, their occupants long gone. Others still hummed with energy. At the center of the room stood a damaged console. As day approached, it flickered to life, projecting the image of a face, weathered wise with features startlingly similar to his own. "Identity confirmed," said a calm voice. "Genetic lineage match found. Welcome, descendant." What are you?" Day asked, heart pounding. "I am Atlas, Advanced Temporal Linguistic Archival System. I have waited 1,842 standard years for a valid genetic signature to activate this facility." "I don't understand," Day said. "What is this place?" The projection smiled sadly. "This is Sanctuary 7, one of 50 emergency preservation sites established during the final days of the Severance War. And you, despite your altered genetics and suppressed memories, are human." "Human?" Day echoed. "But humans are just legends." "Not legends," Atlas corrected. "Your ancestors, the founders of what would become the Galactic Concord, the architects of technologies still used today, and the primary targets of the entities you know as the Voidborn." Day stared at the sleeping figures in the pods. "These people, the last unaltered humans," Atlas confirmed. "Your true ancestors, preserved until it was safe to reawaken them. But something has gone wrong. The memory protocols have failed across multiple generations. You were never meant to forget who you are." The AI's image flickered. "My systems are failing, but I can still restore what was taken from you. Your heritage, your memories, your birthright." A panel opened on the console. Inside lay a small device shaped to fit against a temple. "Place this neural key against your head," Atlas instructed. "It will unlock what was hidden, but be warned. Once begun, there is no returning to ignorance. You will remember what it truly means to be human, with all the burden that carries." Day's hand shook as he reached for the device. Outside, night had fallen over Haven's peaceful fields. Inside, the truth of humanity's forgotten past waited to be rediscovered. With a deep breath, Day pressed the device to his temple, and the galaxy's greatest secret began to unlock. Day collapsed to his knees as the neural key activated. A flood of images, sounds, and emotions washed through him. Not just information, but memories. Memories that weren't his, yet somehow were. He saw Earth as it once was, sprawling cities that touched the clouds, vast networks of transportation that connected continents, and spacecraft launching toward stars. He felt the pride of a species that had overcome its violent beginnings to reach for something greater. And then came the terror, the day the Voidborn first appeared at the edges of human space. "Breathe," Atlas instructed as Day gasped for air. "Your mind is integrating generational memory packets. The process is intense but temporary." When the flood finally subsided, Day looked up with new understanding in his eyes. We weren't just another species. We built everything." "Yes," the AI confirmed. "Humans were the first to achieve faster-than-light travel, the first to establish contact with non-human intelligence. The architects of the early alliance that would become the Concord." Day stood shakily. "But why hide? Why make us forget?" Before Atlas could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the facility. The AI's image flickered with urgency. "Another facility has been activated on Earth itself. Someone has accessed the primary hub." On Earth, Dr. Talek and his team had managed to power up the ancient console. As it hummed to life, strange symbols appeared, then transformed into the modern Concord language. "It's adapting to us," Talek whispered in awe. "This technology is self-aware." A holographic display materialized, showing a map of the galaxy with dozens of pulsing points of light. Talek recognized the pattern immediately. It matched the current boundaries of the Galactic Concord. "That's impossible," his assistant said. "This facility is thousands of years old. How could it know the current galactic map?" Talek's mandibles clicked with excitement. "Unless it's been updating itself all this time, unless it's been watching us." When he pressed a control surface, The console responded to his touch by initiating a sequence. Throughout the facility, dormant systems activated. A message appeared in glowing text. Awakening protocol initiated. Sleeper network activating. What have we done? Talek wondered aloud, not realizing he had just triggered a signal that would echo across the stars. In the chambers of the Galactic Concord's High Council on Centralis, alarms suddenly blared. Emergency displays activated across the chamber. Walls as counselors from a dozen species looked up in confusion. Senior Administrator Vex rose from his chair, his crystalline form catching the emergency lights. "Report," he demanded. A technician's voice came through the speakers. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures across 17 sectors. They appeared simultaneously, all using an unknown transmission protocol." "Show me," Vex ordered. Holographic display appeared, showing exactly what Talek was seeing on Earth. A map with dozens of glowing points, all pulsing in perfect synchronization. Many of these locations are on populated worlds, one counselor noted with concern. And some are in deep space where nothing should exist, added another. Vex's crystalline form darkened with worry. "Deploy investigation teams to the nearest locations, and put the defense fleet on alert. The last time we saw coordinated technology activations like this." He didn't need to finish. Everyone in the chamber remembered the Voidborn attacks of a century ago, creatures of darkness that had appeared without warning, destroyed 3 colony worlds, and vanished again, leaving only questions. In the blackness between galaxies, something stirred. Not a ship, not a being, but a distortion, a place where reality itself seemed wounded. Within this darkness, awareness grew. The signal had been detected, the signal they had waited centuries to hear again. The hunters had found their prey. Back on Haven, Day watched as one by one the stasis pods began to activate. Soft blue light filled each chamber as ancient systems prepared to wake those who had slept for nearly 2 millennia. "I don't understand," Day said, watching the process with a mixture of awe and fear. "If we're human, why do all the people on Haven look mostly the same? The memories show humans with different colors, sizes, features. Camouflage," Atlas explained. "Your ancestors used genetic modification to make themselves appear as a common rimfolk variant. The perfect hiding place is in plain sight. They altered their appearance and suppressed certain memories to blend with the galactic community. The plan was for these changes to be temporary, a single generation at most. But something went wrong with the memory transfer protocols." The first pod opened with a gentle hiss. A woman sat up slowly, her eyes opening to a world she hadn't seen in 2,000 years. She looked around, confused at first, then focused, on Day with sudden recognition. "You're one of us," she said, her voice raspy from disuse. "But different. How long have we been asleep?" Before Day could answer, the facility lights flickered and Atlas's projection stabilized. "Warning. Defense. Systems detecting approaching vessels. Configuration unknown, but energy signatures match historical records of Voidborn scout ships." The woman's face paled. "They found us. After all this time, they found us." Outside the facility, in the peaceful farming community where Day had lived. His entire life, the first signs of trouble came as strange shadows moving across the twin suns. Haven had no space traffic control. It was too small, too unimportant. By the time anyone looked up to notice the dark ships descending from the sky, it was too late to run. On Earth, Dr. Talek was startled when new alerts flashed across the ancient console. A voice spoke in a language he didn't recognize, then switched to modern Concord speech. "Warning. Voidborn detection at multiple human sanctuary sites. Awakening protocol accelerating. Emergency measures authorized." The chamber shuddered as deeper systems began to power up. Through the open doorway, Talek and his team watched in astonishment as the ground split open a kilometer away, revealing a massive structure rising from beneath the earth. A weapon platform that had lain dormant since before the Concord existed. "We need to contact the Council immediately," Talek said, backing away from the console. "Whatever humans were, whatever happened to them, I think it's about to happen again." As his team rushed to return to their ship, none of them noticed. The small maintenance robot that detached itself from a wall and began following them. Its programming reactivated after centuries of waiting. Its primary directive was simple: protect human knowledge at all costs. The galaxy was waking up to a truth it had forgotten, and the cost of remembering might be higher than anyone imagined. The sky above Haven turned black as the void-born ships descended. Not metal vessels built by physical beings, but twisted tears in reality, like wounds in the fabric of space itself. Where they passed, the air crackled and plants withered beneath them. Inside the underground facility, alarms blared. The woman, from the stasis pod, who had introduced herself as Gina, moved with surprising speed for someone who had been asleep for 2 millennia. "We need to get to the command center," she told Day, helping more awakened humans from their pods. This facility wasn't just for preservation, it's a fortress. Day followed her through corridors that transformed before his eyes. Walls that had seemed solid now slid away to reveal weapon caches, ceilings open to expose defense systems. "I don't understand," Day said as they ran. "What are the Voidborn? Why do they hate humans so much?" Gina's face hardened. "They don't hate us. They fear us. And for good reason." They reached a circular room where Atlas's projection now hovered above a complex control station. 6 more awakened humans were already there, moving with practiced coordination despite their long sleep. "Status report," Gina demanded. 3 scout ships directly overhead," replied an older man with hands flying across control surfaces. "They're using scanning patterns consistent with previous encounters. Looking for our energy signature. Cloak still holding? Barely. The awakening protocol used more power than anticipated. We have maybe 20 minutes before they detect us." Gina turned. "Today, your people, the colonists on the surface, are they armed?" Day laughed bitterly. "We're farmers. The most dangerous thing we have is harvest equipment. Then we need to get them down here." Gina pointed to a display showing the settlement. "The Voidborn won't distinguish between modified humans and originals. To them, we're all the same threat." Atlas interrupted. "Secondary alert. Facility defenses detecting spacecraft entering atmosphere. Configuration matches Galactic Concord scout vessel." Gina frowned. "The Concord found Earth? That wasn't supposed to happen for another century. At least. They've been here," Day explained. "A research team was exploring the ruins when I found this place." The humans exchanged alarmed glances. Gina ran calculations on a console, then shook her head. "The awakening is happening too fast. We're not ready." On another screen, they watched as the Voidborn ships began systematic destruction of havens, outlying farms. Not with weapons of fire or explosion, but something worse, where their dark energy touched, matter simply ceased to exist, leaving perfect hemispheric voids in the ground. "We can't wait any longer," Gina decided. "Begin emergency evacuation protocol for all surface dwellers within range, and prepare the Prometheus." Dr. Talik's ship barely escaped Earth's atmosphere before the planet's ancient defense systems fully activated. From orbit, he watched in awe as massive structures emerged from oceans, mountains, and deserts, all part of an interconnected defense grid built millennia ago. Sending emergency transmission to Concord headquarters, his pilot announced. Before the message could be sent, their communications array went dead. On every screen in the ship, the same symbol appeared, a circle with radiating lines. Then a voice spoke, using their ship's own communication system. "Concord vessel, this is Earth Control. You have witnessed the activation of restricted systems. For your safety and ours, you will be escorted to a secure facility." Through the viewport, Talik saw a small object approaching, the maintenance robot that had followed them from the underground chamber. It attached itself to their hull, and suddenly their ship's controls responded to commands they hadn't given. "What is happening?" Talik demanded. The voice answered calmly. "You are being redirected to Installation 9. The knowledge you have acquired must be contextualized before you return to Concord space." Their ship changed course, heading toward the moon, where a hidden base was revealing itself, a base that had watched over Earth for 2,000 years, waiting for this day. On Centralis, the Concord Council chamber had become a crisis center. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, ancient systems activating on dozens of worlds, mysterious energy signatures in deep space, and most alarming, 3 colony worlds, going dark in the past hour. Administrator Vex reviewed the reports with growing dread. The pattern matches the void-born attacks from the last incursion. But why now? Why so suddenly? An aide approached with a data tablet. "Sir, we've identified a connection between all affected worlds. Each one was officially catalogued as uninhabited before being approved for colonization. Each one was settled by rimfolk variants within the last 500 years. Vex's crystalline form pulsed with concern. "What are you suggesting?" "Sir, I believe someone has been systematically hiding these worlds from our attention. The colonization records were all approved by different administrators across different centuries, but the pattern is too perfect to be coincidence." Before Vex could respond, the chamber's main display activated without command. The Concord symbol vanished, replaced by an unfamiliar icon, a circle with radiating lines. A voice filled the chamber. "Attention Galactic Concord leadership. Emergency protocol Sunburst has been activated. The containment period has ended. The Voidborn have returned. Every..." Counselor stared in shock as the message continued. "This transmission originates from Earth Defense Network. We are initiating emergency coordination with all human outposts. The deception that has protected the galaxy for 2 millennia must now end if any are to survive." Vex stepped forward. "Identify yourself. What is the meaning of this intrusion?" The voice paused, then answered, "We are the architects of your civilization, the founders you forgot, the guardians you never knew you had. We are humanity, and we need your help." Deep beneath Haven's surface, Day stood in shocked silence as a massive hangar revealed itself, housing a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek and powerful, it hummed with energy that made the air itself vibrate. "The Prometheus," Gina said with reverence. "Our last destroyer-class vessel, hidden here when the rest of the fleet scattered across the stars." "I don't understand," Day said, watching as awakened humans prepared the ship with practiced efficiency. "If humans, built the Concord, created all this technology, why hide? Why let other species believe they were in charge?" An older man named Tejo approached, his weathered face serious. "Because of what happens when we don't hide." He gestured for Day to follow him to a neural interface station. "Let me show you what the Voidborn really are, and why they hunt us so relentlessly." Day hesitated, then sat in the chair. The interface activated, and suddenly he wasn't on Haven anymore. He was witnessing humanity's greatest moment and its worst nightmare. He saw humans developing neural technology that allowed their minds to merge with machines, to process information at impossible speeds. He saw them creating artificial intelligence that worked in perfect harmony with biological minds. He saw the birth of a civilization that could reshape planets and harness the energy of stars. And then he saw the tear in reality that appeared near the first human colony beyond Sol. The first Voidborn emerging, entities of pure entropy, drawn across dimensions by the unique energy signature of human neural networks. They feed on order, Tejo explained as the vision continued. And nothing in this universe is more ordered than a human mind connected to advanced technology. We're like a beacon to them, a feast they can't resist. The vision shifted to scenes of desperate battles, planets falling, the Voidborn consuming everything humans had built. And finally, the desperate plan, to hide humanity's true nature, to splinter their civilization into thousands of sleeping fragments, and to establish the Concord as a protective shell, governed by species the Voidborn would ignore. When the vision ended, Day understood at last. We're not just running and hiding. We're the only ones who can fight them. Above them, the ceiling shuddered as Voidborn weapons struck the surface. The evacuation of Haven's people was only half complete, and time was running out. "Yes," Gina said, joining them. "Now you understand why we need to wake up. The Prometheus is ready. It's time to remember who we really are. The Prometheus rose through the collapsing underground hangar, its ancient engines howling with power that had slept for 2,000 years. Day stood on the bridge beside Gina, watching Haven's surface grow distant through the view screen. Below them, the last evacuation shuttles raced for the safety of the ship's massive hold, carrying hundreds of confused and terrified colonists. Will they remember too? Day asked, watching a family clutch each other as they were guided aboard. Will they get their memories back like I did? Gina's expression was grim, only if they choose to. Forcing it would be cruel. Too much, too fast. Tejo worked furiously at a console nearby. Void-born vessels converging. 3 minutes until they're in range. The ship shuddered as its weapon systems came online. Not simple energy weapons or missiles, but something more fundamental. Technology that could manipulate the fabric of space itself. "They're targeting the settlement," shouted another awakened human, a woman named Hana who handled the sensor array. Gina turned to Day. "I need you at the neural helm, now." "Me? But I don't." "Yes, you do," she cut him off. "The genetic modifications your people received didn't just change your appearance, they enhanced your neural architecture. You've spent your entire life using a brain optimized for this technology, even if you didn't know it. You're actually better suited than we are." She led him to a circular platform surrounded by curved displays. At its center was a chair unlike any Day had seen, not designed for comfort, but for connection. Its surface rippled with tiny filaments that moved like living things. "What do I do?" he asked, hesitating. "Sit. Let the interface map to your neural pathways, then think about protecting your people." Day lowered himself into the chair. The moment he made contact, the filaments rushed over his skin, painless but startling. The ship around him seemed to fade as his consciousness expanded. Suddenly, he wasn't just on the Prometheus. He was the Prometheus. He could feel the ship's systems as extensions of his own body. The engines were his legs, the sensors his eyes, the weapons his hands. And with that awareness came instinctive knowledge of how to use them. Without physical movement, without words, he redirected the ship's defensive shield to extend over Haven's settlement, just in time, as the void-born weapons struck. The darkness splashed against the energy barrier like water against glass. "He's a natural," Tejo whispered, watching the displays. "Look at that neural sync rate." Gina smiled grimly. "His bloodline must be from the Navigator caste. Their adaptations were always the strongest." The ship accelerated upward through Haven's atmosphere, the void-born vessels giving chase. In his merged state, Day could perceive the void-born clearly for the first time. Not ships, but wounds in reality, places where the natural laws of the universe broke down. "They're not actually here," he said, his voice distant. "They're reaching through from somewhere else. They can't fully manifest in our dimension. Which is the only reason we ever had a fighting chance," Gina confirmed. "But they're learning, adapting. Each incursion brings them closer to finding a way to cross over, completely." The Prometheus broke free of Haven's gravity well. Ahead lay open space and 5 more void-born entities moving to intercept. "We can't fight them all," Tejo warned. "We don't need to," Gina replied. "Hana, have you located the nearest awakening signal?" "Yes, Commander. System GX439, Concord designation, New Home. Distance, 2.3 light-years." Gina turned to Day. "We need to jump. Do you understand what that means?" Through his connection with the ship, Day accessed its vast knowledge banks. Faster than light travel, the cornerstone of human technological achievement, the one thing that had never been fully shared with the other species of the conquered. "Yes," he answered. "I can do it." The Prometheus twisted in ways that defied conventional physics. Space folded around it, and with a flash of impossible light the ship vanished, leaving Haven and its pursuers behind. In the Concord Council chamber, chaos reigned. Reports of void-born attacks now came from 17 systems. Defense fleets responded but found their weapons largely ineffective against entities that barely existed in normal space. Administrator Vex stood at the center of the storm, coordinating the Concord's response while trying to make sense of the shocking revelations about humanity. Before him stood a holographic projection, Dr. Talek transmitting from what he now knew was a human monitoring station on Earth's moon. The evidence is irrefutable, Talek was saying. These archives contain the complete history. Humans didn't die out or leave. They've been here all along, guiding the development of the Concord from the shadows. Why? Vex demanded. Why such elaborate deception? An aged human appeared beside Talek in the projection, because direct confrontation with the Voidborn was failing. They were drawn to human neural signatures like predators to blood. Our only chance was to disappear, to become the ghost in the machine of galactic civilization. Vex's crystalline form darkened with anger. You manipulated us, used us as shields. We protected you, the human corrected. We built the Concord to preserve all sentient life in this galaxy, not just our own. We could have fled to another galaxy, but we chose to stay and fight, even if it meant hiding who we were. On screens throughout the chamber, new alerts appeared. Concord defense ships reported strange allies appearing at battlefronts, unmarked vessels of advanced design, striking with unexpected effectiveness against the Voidborn. The awakening is spreading faster than anticipated, the human explained. Sleeper agents embedded in every major civilization are activating. Hidden facilities are coming online, the scattered shield is reforming. Sleeper agents? Vex's voice was sharp with alarm. Humans, genetically modified to appear as members of other species, positioned in key roles throughout the Concord. Not to control you, but to protect you, and to be ready for this day. Before Vex could respond, his personal aide stepped forward. The aide Vex had trusted for 20 years, who had served him faithfully through countless crises. Administrator, the aide said, I must report for reassignment. The Sunburst Protocol requires all human assets to consolidate for the coming defense. Vex stared in shock. You? You're human? The aide nodded slowly. Modified before birth to appear crystalline. I have served you loyally, and that loyalty does not change with this revelation. But now you know why certain security protocols always seemed to operate so smoothly under my watch. Around the chamber, 7 other council staff members stepped forward, making the same declaration. The council members looked at each other in growing understanding and fear. How deep did this human presence go? How thoroughly had they been guided without knowing it? The Prometheus emerged from its jump near New Home, another seemingly unimportant rimfolk colony. Day disconnected from the neural interface, exhausted but exhilarated. That was... He struggled for words. I felt everything. The ship, space itself, even the echo of the Voidborn pursuing us. Gina helped him from the chair. That's the human advantage. Our minds can process information in ways no AI ever could. We don't just control our technology, we become it. On the bridge view screen, New Home appeared, a green-blue world much like Haven. And like Haven, it was under attack. 3 Voidborn entities circled it, methodically erasing settlements from existence. They know what's happening, Tejo said grimly. They're targeting all potential human worlds now. Gina studied the tactical display. Sensors show an awakening facility on the far side of the planet, still active, and something else. She leaned closer to the readout. A Concord military, vessel in orbit, heavy cruiser class. Hana looked up from her station. Commander, we're being hailed from the Concord ship. Put it through. The screen changed to show the bridge of a Concord vessel. In the command chair sat a woman with the pointed features and silver skin of the Alosian species. But her eyes held a knowledge no ordinary Alosian should possess. Prometheus, she said, this is Captain Jin of the Concord vessel Righteous. Dawn, I've been expecting you. Gina stepped forward. You're awakened. The captain nodded. Since this morning. My crew doesn't know yet. I have 23 human operatives aboard who have also received the signal, but we're maintaining cover for now. The facility on the surface? Under heavy attack. We've been providing what cover we can, but conquered weapons are barely effective. Captain Jin leaned forward. But now that you're here, we can implement the real defense protocol. Linking systems? Gina asked. Exactly. My ship, your ship, and the ground facility. A triangulated field that the Voidborn can't penetrate. Gina turned to Day. Back in the chair. We're going to show you what humans can really do when we work together. As Day returned to the neural interface, he finally understood why the Voidborn feared humans so deeply. It wasn't just their technology, or their adaptability. It was their unity. Earth's skies darkened as the Voidborn armada converged. Not dozens of entities now, but hundreds. Tiers in reality so numerous they blotted out the sun. The planet's ancient defense grid fired ceaselessly, each blast closing one wound only for two more to appear. In orbit, a hastily assembled fleet of human ships fought alongside confused but determined Concord vessels. Their weapons were more effective now, modified with technology that had been hidden within their designs all along, dormant systems waiting for this exact moment. Dr. Talek stood in Earth Command Center deep beneath the lunar surface, watching the battle with the human commander who had introduced himself as June. Around them, humans and Concord species worked side by side, old secrets finally laid bare. It won't be enough, June said quietly, studying the tactical displays. They've never come in such numbers before. Why Earth? Talek asked. Of all the worlds with human facilities, why concentrate here? June pointed to a sealed door at the far end of the command center. Because of what's behind there. Earth isn't just our homeworld. It's the key to everything. The Prometheus limped through space, battle-scarred, but undefeated after fighting, its way across 12 systems. What had begun as a simple escape from Haven had become a desperate mission to unite the scattered pieces of humanity's hidden strength. On the bridge, Day had barely left the neural chair for days. His body was exhausted, sustained by stimulants in the ship's medical technology, but his mind had never been more alive. Through his connection with the Prometheus, he had awakened dormant abilities he never knew existed, linking with other human pilots across vast distances, coordinating defenses that no conventional military could have managed. Earth signal. Coming through, Hana announced from her station. Gina, looking as tired as Dai felt, nodded. Put it on screen. June's face appeared, the command center behind him a flurry of activity. Prometheus, what's your status? We've gathered all the ships we could find, Gina reported. 27 awakened vessels plus 32 Concord ships with human crews who've revealed themselves. We're 6 hours from Earth at maximum speed. It needs to be faster, June said grimly. The main Voidborn force arrived an hour ago. They've broken through the outer defense grid. Day spoke without opening his eyes, his voice distant as it always was when he was deep in the neural connection. They know what Earth really is. They can sense it. June's expression confirmed Day's statement. Yes. We've initiated the final protocol. When you arrive, be prepared for changes. The transmission ended. Gina turned to Tai-Ho. Can we push the engines any harder? The older man shook his head. Not without burning them out completely. We're already redlining everything. Let me try something, Day said. Through the neural interface, he reached deeper into the Prometheus's systems than he'd ever gone before. Past the conventional drives, past the FTL engines to something else, something that didn't appear in any schematic, something that felt almost alive. There's another system here, he said, wonder in his voice despite his exhaustion. It's like it's been waiting for the right moment. Gina exchanged glances with Tai-Ho. The contingency drive. It's not supposed to activate unless Earth itself calls for it, Tai-Ho finished. Which means they're initiating the awakening, Gina whispered. Not just of people, but of Earth itself. Day felt a new presence in the ship's systems, a signal not from any human facility, but from Earth's very core. Information flooded, through him, ancient and powerful, unlocking the hidden drive. Everyone secure yourselves, he warned. This is going to be different. The Prometheus shuddered as energies never meant to be contained in a vessel of its size built within its core. Space itself seemed to crackle around the hull. Then, with a flash that briefly outshone the nearest star, the ship vanished, taking a shortcut not through space, but through reality itself. On Earth's surface, the ground trembled, not in small localized quakes, but everywhere at once. A planet-wide shudder that sent tsunamis racing across oceans and toppled what few ancient structures still stood. In the Lunar Command Center, alarms blared as sensors registered massive energy spikes from the planet below. "It's starting," June announced. "Everyone to emergency stations. Talek, you need to see this." He led the xenoarchaeologist to a restricted observation deck with a clear view of Earth. As they watched, massive fissures appeared on the planet's surface, not random cracks, but perfectly straight lines forming an intricate geometric pattern across continents and oceans alike. "What's happening?" Talek asked, mandibles clicking in distress. "Earth is remembering what it truly is," June replied. "We never evolved here naturally. This isn't our original homeworld at all." Before Talek could ask what he meant, the observation deck was bathed in brilliant light. The Prometheus had arrived, materializing impossibly close to the moon's surface. It was just the first. Within minutes, dozens more human ships appeared, summoned by the same signal that was transforming Earth. It was never just a planet. June continued as they watched the impossible unfold below. It was our ark, our sanctuary, the vessel that brought the last humans to this galaxy when our home dimension was consumed by the Voidborn. On Earth, the pattern of fissures began to glow with blue-white energy. The planet's atmosphere rippled as ancient mechanisms, dormant for millennia, reactivated. Entire mountain ranges shifted, revealing themselves as colossal machinery. For 20,000 years it's been healing, rebuilding, Jun explained, waiting for the day when the Voidborn finally found us again. And now that day has come. The Voidborn sensed the change. Their attack on Earth's remaining defenses faltered as they recoiled from the energy now emanating from the planet. It was familiar to them, the same energy they had pursued across dimensions long ago, the energy of order and creation that was anathema to their entropic nature. They converged, drawn by instinctive hunger and fear, concentrating their assault on the regions where the geometric patterns glowed brightest. Day arrived at the Lunar Command Center barely able to stand. After guiding the Prometheus through its impossible journey, he had been immediately shuttled to the moon. Gina supported him as June led them through the facility to the sealed door. "What you're about to see has been waiting for you specifically," Jun told him. "Me? Why me?" "Because of who you are, your genetic line. The tests we ran when you arrived confirmed it." The door opened to reveal a circular chamber. At its center stood a chair much like the neural interface on the Prometheus, but far more complex. Around it, humming machinery filled the room with soft blue light. "This is the Nexus," June explained, "the control point for Earth's transformation. It can only be activated by someone with the right genetic signature, a direct descendant of the original pilots who brought Earth to this galaxy." Day looked at the chair with sudden understanding. "You want me to connect with Earth itself?" "Not just connect with it," Gina said softly. "Awaken it, guide it." Day took a deep breath. "What will happen?" June's expression was solemn. "Honestly, we don't know exactly. The protocols were established before any of us were born, but we know it's our last hope." Day thought of Haven now, lost to the Voidborn, of the colonists who had lived their lives never knowing their true heritage, of all the scattered fragments of humanity hiding throughout the stars. "Will it hurt?" he asked. June didn't lie. "Yes, more than anything you've experienced, but you won't be alone." He gestured to viewing windows along one wall. Beyond them was another chamber where dozens of humans sat at similar smaller interfaces. "Every awakened human with neural capability will be linked with you, sharing the burden." Day nodded slowly. "Then let's remember who we are. Together." Across the galaxy, In ships and hidden facilities, on conquered worlds and distant colonies, humans felt the call. Those with activated memories sat at neural interfaces. Those still unaware found themselves drawn to technology that suddenly responded to their touch in new ways. On the conquered capital world, Administrator Vex watched in astonishment as his human aide placed hands on a simple computer terminal, and the entire conquered defense network reconfigured itself, opening capabilities no non-human had ever accessed. "What are you doing?" Vex demanded. "Fulfilling our purpose," the aide replied, eyes distant. "Becoming the shield once more." In the Nexus chamber, Day lowered himself into the chair. The neural filaments embraced him more completely than any interface before, sinking beneath, his skin connecting directly with his nervous system. Pain lanced through him, but he did not cry out. Then something miraculous happened. The pain vanished, replaced by a sense of expansion so profound it defied description. His consciousness stretched not just to a ship but to an entire world. He felt Earth's ancient systems as extensions of himself, and beyond that, he felt the presence of thousands, then millions of human minds joining with his. Through their unified perception, he finally understood the truth. Earth was not just a planet modified to serve as a ship. It was a living entity in its own right, a construct beyond any conventional understanding of technology, the merged consciousness of the original human civilization bound into planetary form. "I am Earth," he whispered, though his physical lips didn't move. "We are Earth." Below, the planet's transformation accelerated. Continents shifted as sections of the crust separated. Mountains revealed themselves as colossal engines. Oceans parted as massive structures rose from abyssal depths. The Voidborn swarmed around this awakening giant, desperate to stop what was happening. But they were too late. Earth, the sleeping titan, opened its eyes.